In this video, we'll learn to multiply and divide whole numbers and decimals by 10, 100 and 1000. We need, and we use this skill in everyday life when it comes to working out the cost of 100 items, 10 items or 1000 items, or sharing out costs between 10 people, 100, 1000 maybe. Now, how is this different from multiplying by 8, 9, 19, 29? This is what we're going to look at because there is a pattern which makes multiplication and division by 10, 100 and 1000 very easy. So I've got some whole numbers at the top and some decimals at the bottom. Before I go through multiplying and dividing, I'd like to show you this timetables grid. And I want you to look at what happens when you multiply 1 by 10. The answer is 10. 2 by 10, the answer is 20. 3 by 10, the answer is 30. 4 by 10, the answer is 40. So look at these digits and look at these digits here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. And that's been repeated here as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But what we have is a 0 at the end for all of these numbers. Because every time you multiply by 10, a whole number, this is what happens. You add a 0 at the end. So 8 times 10 is 80. So what do you expect is going to happen when you multiply 15 by 10? I'll write 15 as it is, and I'll add the 0. So that becomes 150. We've got 275 times 10. So 275 rewritten, and add the 0 from the 10. So that's what happens when you multiply a whole number by 10. You just add a 0 at the end. Because if you look at it, the number has got bigger. 15 lots of 10 is 150. 275 times 10 gives you 2,750. So by adding that 0, we're making the number much larger, actually 10 times larger. 15 times 100, what do you think is going to happen now? Now, I underlined the 0 when we multiplied that by 10, so I'll underline the zeros again when multiplying by 100. So I'll write 15, and I'll add this time not 1 0, but 2 zeros, because there are 2 zeros in 100. And look at the number, it's become 1,500. So 100 lots of 15 make 1,500. 275 times 10 times 100 this time around. So I'll rewrite 275, add the 2 zeros at the end. So this becomes now 27,500. Now I'm multiplying 15 by 1,000. So I'll rewrite 15, and there are 1, 2, 3 zeros in 1,000. So that becomes 15,000. And indeed, 15 lots of 1,000 gives you 15,000. Now I've got 275 multiplied by 1,000. So I'll rewrite 275 and add the 3 zeros. So 275 lots of 1,000, that gives us 275,000. And that's what we have as our answer. So to summarize, when we multiply whole numbers, this is 15, 275, 2, 7,000, so it's whole number, not a decimal. Then, if we're multiplying it by 10, we add a 0 at the end. If we're multiplying by 100, we add 2 zeros. If we're multiplying it by 1,000, we add 3 zeros. So underline the zeros in the number you're multiplying it by. Now we'll look at dividing these whole numbers. So I've got 25,000 divided by 10. Now if I want to work this out, I need to again go back to the grid that I had. So if you look at it, we had this answer, and when we divide by 10, what do we get? So it's the reverse of the process. So 10 divided by 10 gives me 1. 20 divided by 10 gives me 2. 30 divided by 10 gives me 3. So what's happening? I'm actually now knocking off the 0. I'm reversing the process, which means knocking off the 0. And that's what's going to happen exactly here. So we've got the 10 has 1 0, so I'm going to knock off only 1 0 of the number. So I'll rewrite this as 2500, which is 2500. And we've got 4500 here divided by 10, so knocking off a 0, that gives me 450. We've got 25,000 divided by 100. So now I'll need to knock off 2 zeros. So I'll go, that's it up to this point. So we've got 250 as the answer. Similarly here we've got 1, 2 to take away, so our answer will be 45. So as you can notice, the actual answer is getting smaller. The number is getting smaller. From 25,000 divided by 10, that gave us 2,500. How can I check I've got it right? 10 lots of 2,500 gives me 25,000. So 25,000 divided by 1,000. 1,000 has 1, 2, 3 zeros, so I'll knock off 3 zeros. So they go 1, 2, 3. So the answer is 25. 4,500 divided by 1,000. So 1, 2, 3 zeros. So we go 1, 2. Now this is a 5, so I can't really knock that off. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write the answer as 4.5. And how does that make sense? If I had 4,000 divided by 1,000, what would my answer be? So I'd need to knock off 1, 2, 3, 0. So 1, 2, 3, and I'd be left with just 4. But in actual fact, I had 4,500. So 4,500. So that's what is going to happen to the answer here as well. I can't just have the 4 here as my answer because I've got another half to take care of. So that's why I write this as 4.5, which means 4.5. We'll have a look at what exactly that means in another way when we now deal with decimals here. To help us understand how to multiply and divide decimals by 10, 100 and 1,000, I'm going to use one of these previous examples with whole numbers. So what I'm going to do, that was 15 times 10. I'm going to write 15 as a decimal. So I'll write it as 15.0. And as you know, 15.0 is exactly the same as 15 because it's telling me I've got 15 wholes and 0 parts. If this was money, 15.000 would mean that I would have 15 whole pounds and no pennies. So those zeros after the decimal point have really no value. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to use this scenario to multiply by 10. So 15.00 times 10. What is going to happen here? What if you try this with a calculator or by hand, you'll see that this will give us 150 or 150.0, which is the same answer. So what has happened? I'm multiplying by 10. So, and we're talking about positive numbers here. So that means that my answer will get bigger, 10 times bigger. So this decimal point here has moved one place to the right, which is the positive direction in number lines or thermometers, if you recall. So there is 0, here is the positive ones, positive numbers, and there is the negative numbers. So this is what's happened to 15.00 times 10 gives us 150. So exactly now, or very similar to this, will be this. If I do 15.00, not trying out this one, times 100. So I'm going to move, because I'm multiplying, I'm moving in the positive direction and the number will get bigger. So we go 1, 2 places because there are 2 zeros in the 100. So this number now will have the decimal at the end. So it's going to be 1500. The decimal is invisible now because it's a whole number, and you can add it if you want and put zeros, any more zeros, but it won't make any difference because the number has the same value. So this is 1500, this is 1500. I did this so that it can help us with the rest of the decimals. So 1.5 times 10. Which direction are we moving? In the positive direction because it's multiplication. How many places? It's going to be 1 place. So that decimal, which is now here, is going to move 1 place to move there. So if we have no digits, we can add a 0 or just take away the decimal point in this case, because we don't have any digits after the 5. Now we've got 1.5 times 100. So again, multiplication means moving in the positive direction, making the number bigger. So we go, I'll write 1 and the 5. The decimal is at this point here between 1 and 5, but it needs to move 2 places in the positive direction. So 1, 2. So it's going to be now there. But there is a space there that's not filled. So what I'm going to do is put a 0 in. And that is right at the end of the number. So that means 150. So I can take it off completely. 1.5 times 1000. So means moving in the positive direction 3 places. So from here we go 1, 2, 3 places. So there we go, we have 2 empty spaces to be filled with zeros. So this becomes now 1500. Let's have a look at this one. 27.5 times 10. So 1 place we're moving in the positive direction. So 275, it is here at the moment, we're moving 1 place and it becomes 275. 0.5 times 100. So right there we have 0.5. We're moving 2 places in the positive direction. So we go 1, 2. So decimal moves there. So we need to fill this space. And does that 0 need to stand there now? Because there is no decimal point in between them. The decimal point is at the end. No, it doesn't. and the decimal point doesn't even need to be there because this is a whole number, so we got 50 as the answer. What about this? So we have these digits 2704. We multiplying by 1000. Decimal point is here, so we go 1, 2, 3 places. So decimal point will move to that point, so that doesn't exist anymore, and this is a whole number with no digits after, so we'll have this as 27,040. We'll now look at dividing the decimals by 10, 100 and 1000. So if I refer to the examples that I used before, so I went 15.00 times 100 gives me 1500. Now division is the reverse process, so I'm going to go 1500 divided by 100 gives me 15. So when I reverse this, what happened? If you look at the decimal point, which would actually be here, when I divided by 100, it moved 1, 2 places. So 1, 2 places to become 15. So what are we learning through this? Is that the number of places you move in, again, depends on how many zeros in the 10, 100 or 1000 that you're multiplying by, and which direction you move in really depends on what you're doing, what's the operation. So when you multiply, you move in the positive direction. When you divide, you move in the negative direction to make the number smaller. So 4.5 divided by 10. So I'll rewrite the digits 4 and 5. At the moment, the decimal is between 4 and 5, and it's being divided by 10. So divided means moving in the negative direction to make the number even smaller. So we go 1 place to the left because there is 1 0 in the 10. So the decimal point will be here now. But can I have just 0.45? Mathematically, you need to add a 0 in front. So this becomes 0.45. Now, 4.5 is going to be divided by 100. So again, divided means moving to the left, and it is 2 places. So we go 1, 2. The decimal point must be there. There is a place unfilled, so I'm going to fill that with a 0. And in front of the decimal, I need a 0 as well. So 0.045. Now 4.5 will be divided by 1000. So divided and moving 3 places. So we go 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be there. Now we have 2 places unfilled. So 1, 2. That decimal is moving from there, and we need a 0 in front to make this into 0.0045. So I'll bring the 5 a bit closer here. And 75.3 divided by 10. So 75.3 divided means we move into the left, and by 10 means we move in 1 place. So I'm going to go 1 place. There we go. So the answer now is 7.53. 8.4 divided by 100. So we move into the left 2 places. Go 1, 2. There is a blank space there that needs to be filled, and of course a 0 in front of the decimal. So this becomes 0.084. 4.0 divided by 1000. So we move in 3 places. To the left we go 1, 2, 3, and this is where we stop. So we fill these with zeros and we have a 0 in front. So this becomes 0.0040. So this, I hope, has shown you how to multiply and divide whole numbers and decimals by 10, 100 and 1000.